Space gamers, that's the wrong term. Space nerds, those were the cool new Volt weapons coming into Star Citizen. I say cool because I'm the kind of person who grew up on Bungie and Insomniac games, so I like the fiction going into my science fiction when it comes to gunplay. I know some people don't like these guns, but I think they're pretty cool, and there are more on the way with a sniper actually right around the corner in 4.3, but we'll get to that. And I want to put a highlight on them because you guys can now get them in-game at all the new sandbox locations. They're pretty cool guns. Let's look at them. As you saw in the introduction, we now have a pistol SMG shotgun and a rifle from Volt, and we're going to start with the pistol here. The pulse pistol starts out shooting pretty slowly, but it's still full automatic, and once you can get the heat generated, it starts to speed up to fire more like an LH86. And that heat's going to be a pretty important part of all these guns. You have to balance it to make sure you're not overheating the guns, and also allowing yourself to use the secondary firing method if you'd like. There is no secondary firing method with the pistol, but it does shoot faster, and you can empty, I think, half the magazine before overheating in a normal temperature environment. And avoiding that overheating is a cool part of the gameplay because it makes the gunplay a little bit more complex for you. At least I like it. Not exactly volty. It looks more like a plasma bolt, if you will. I think they call it a laser pistol. But I think it even sounds a bit like the plasma pistols from Halo. Or I'm obsessed. The most interesting part of these guns, though, as I mentioned, is the heat. Heat is something that's already started to affect other parts of the game. We've seen it in our components in the past with the old MFDs. It causes us to overheat in certain atmospheres, and it's going to be a part of engineering and definitely fire when it gets set to your ships. All of the game is affected by heat that's generated by sources, but it's typically dependent on the atmosphere you're in. So if you're in Aberdeen, which is the hottest moon on the closest planet to the star in Stanton, your gun's gonna overheat much faster than it would if you were out in a hangar. That's climate control. In fact, I got video for that, and you can see that only half of the magazine will empty on a specific gun in one environment compared to a quarter in the other. It means the guns are gonna work a lot better for you in colder environments, possibly outdoing guns that normally would be better. But it also means you're gonna be a bit limited in the hot environments, specifically where you would find these in places like Daymar and Aberdeen. But maybe you like that secondary fire method, so you like using them in hot places. I don't know how you like your soup. Next up is the shotgun, called the Prism, and I love it. Like the pistol, it has a bit of a plasma look to it, not much of a Volt look. And even my friend Maverick said it looks kind of like the scatter shot from Halo, but he might also be obsessed. I might just surround myself with people who are obsessed with Halo. But this one, like the pistol, also has some pretty cool firing alternatives when it heats up. This one turns into basically a slug launcher. It just performs almost as a DMR. You can get some pretty good range on this as it overheats, but even when it's normally firing, it's got low spread, good range, and it's fully automatic. But like the R97, it's likely going to be weaker, even though it is incredibly fun to use. The sound is okay, it's cool, but not as deep as I think the Pulse was. We've also recently got the Quartz. This is the SMG, and it's the first one today that really gives the Volt vibe. It fires out an arc of electricity that decreases in damage very quickly over distance. I wouldn't say I enjoy using this more than the GOAT, the P8SC, but it's pretty fun to use, and it looks very cool, the little spinny bits. Originally, the beam was supposed to heat up and split into two beams as an alternate firing method, but this one actually doesn't have an alternate. And it doesn't really sound all that exciting. I think there is an audio glitch to it right now in the game, but I think one thing they could do for this gun would be to just make it kind of scream like a Banshee, like the gun from the Matrix. I know we don't need nostalgia at every turn in this game, but that would be really cool with this gun. Finally, there is the Parallax Rifle, and this is what MKBHD would call the flagship of the Volt weapons. Honestly, it feels like the most significant. It has a good range to it. It feels like it's got a thump when it fires. Two very distinct firing methods, even one with an arc of electricity that kind of diminishes how cool the Quartz is. And overall, it just plays pretty similar to a normal projectile gun until it gets really hot, but that's more than you could say for most of these other guns. Just remember, in hot environments, it's gonna switch very quickly to its beam firing method, so if you like the normal rifle, you might want to stick to colder environments with this one. Funny, I actually remember when they were first describing how this gun would sound when it started to be fired. Did a Star Citizen Live from like 4 years ago. So yeah, that's how it turned out. And it's a good gun. I like it. It has more range than a lot of these other guns. It performs pretty well. It looks cool. It sounds good. And I think once we start getting more status effects, armor resistances, and more diverse atmospheres added to the game for you to be fighting in, these guns are in general gonna be pretty interesting to use, and I don't think they're gonna stop with just these Volt weapons. In fact, there are other guns we're expecting to see soon. First up is the Novia Ultiflex crossbow. This was actually shown off in a big way last year in the same episode these guns were shown off. And I do think that they're just waiting to get the chance to figure out the firing methods for that crossbow before they bring it as a stealth weapon in the game. Next after that was the Space AK, also showed up in that same episode of ISC, and we saw it briefly in Squadron 42 a couple of years ago. This is one that clearly was being made for Squadron 42 and is likely coming to the game at some point soon so that we can use it in Pyro. That's the Pyro Space AK. There is the Breacher Armament Taser, because we are waiting for some non-lethal gameplay as well. Bounty hunters are going to need that at some point whenever bounty hunting gameplay gets an update. And then finally, there are a couple other Volt weapons we haven't seen: an LMG, a sniper, and a possible SMG called the Fresnel, which is on the roadmap. But I think the Fresnel could have been changed into the Prism Shotgun and just not been updated on the progress tracker. It's also been confirmed that the sniper is the next weapon coming, as you can see on the roadmap. So I'll be covering that as soon as it hits the PTU in the next month or so here. I think we had a huge gap between 3.12 and 4.0 where the weapons content team was working on Squadron 42 assets. We could kind of see that with the Space AK showing up in the trailer before we got shown it, but we can also see that because the work on these Volt weapons took multiple years to complete, and I think the team might have even said they were working on Squadron. Either way, it's a pretty solid bet. So I do think that we're going to start to see more and more weapons and armor coming into the game, and especially the older weapons and armor see more polish, characterization, and just overall interesting updates over the next couple years. Either way, hope you got something from this update and learned a little bit more. Thank you for watching this one, and I'll catch you in the next.